vaccine? Well, you should know by now that it goes into people. Yes, people in hospitals and clinics and schools, not only in Nyasaland but as far south as southern Rhodesia, get protection from the vaccine produced at Zomba. And not only people who live in towns, for if they don't go to clinics, the vaccine comes to them. Smallpox could flare up anywhere at any time, leaving death in its wake, were it not for the simple weapon that Edward Jenner placed in the hands of medical science.
All the time we've been waiting and hoping for the day when the searchlights of science would pick out our invisible enemy and give us the power to stop that enemy from making us ill. And now the scientists have done it, and they've used the virus itself to perform a kind of biological jiu-jitsu to turn the virus on itself in the form of a vaccine, and an idea that I think was pioneered in this country by Edward Jenner in 1796.
So who was this Edward Jenner we all have to be thankful for? Edward Jenner was the self-proclaimed discoverer of vaccination, but its origins were around and practised a long time before Jenner's day, who didn't begin his vaccinations until 1796. Lady Mary Wortley Montagu was said to have been the one who introduced inoculation into England in 1717, after she returned from Turkey, where her husband was an ambassador. When Lady Montagu spoke to Jenner of the practice of arm-to-arm inoculation that she had seen in Turkey, he said, "Aye, but the Gloucestershire dairymaids have a better trick than that. They say that if a person takes the cowpox from the cow, he will never after have smallpox. Now cowpox is smallpox of the cow. Cowpox is not infectious. A person once having cowpox will never have smallpox afterwards, and there are no dangerous results to be anticipated, as they are with arm-to-arm inoculations." So we see that Edward Jenner's medical science was based upon dairymaids' superstitions. Jenner's first experiments were performed on his 18-month-old son, whom he inoculated with swinepox. The boy was prone to illness throughout his life and developed a defective understanding. At the age of 21, he died of pulmonary consumption, which we know today as tuberculosis. On the 14th of May 1796, Jenner publicly tested his hypothesis on a boy about 8 years old, called James Phipps. He inserted the pus from the hand of a dairymaid infected with cowpox into both arms of the boy by means of 2 incisions. After waiting 6 weeks, Jenner inoculated this boy with smallpox matter, taken from the arm of a boy with smallpox. Several months later, Phipps was again inoculated with smallpox pus, but no effect was produced. On the strength of this one experiment, Jenner claimed that one vaccination would forever secure a person from smallpox. Jenner applied to the English government for money to promote his scheme. On the strength of the dairymaid story, his promise of lifetime immunity, and his unscientific experiment on James Phipps, Parliament gave him £10,000 in 1802. Then in 1807, Jenner taught them out of another £20,000. Interestingly, James Phipps also died of tuberculosis at the age of 20. In Barron's Life of Jenner, the author refers to Phipps' condition as follows. While walking with a friend, one day they passed young Phipps, when Jenner exclaimed, "Oh, there is poor Phipps. I wish you could see him. He has been very unwell lately, and I am afraid he has got tuberculosis on his lungs. He was recently inoculated for smallpox, I believe for the 20th time, and all without effect." In 1804, acting on Jenner's suggestion, the King of Spain ordered all the children in the Foundling Hospital of Madrid to be vaccinated with goat pox. In a book by Dr. Skelton, we read that this madness first filtered through the brains of Jenner by the superstitious old women of Berkeley and its neighbourhood, who secretly practised vaccination upon children, was, after some few years of hard fighting, transmitted to Sir Gilbert Blaine and a few of his class, and as these were the great medicine men, whose wisdom excelled all others, the delusion was soon shared by the king. From the king it passed to the court, from the court to the government, from the government to the profession, and from the profession to all who readily move by example in high places. In this way, not England alone, but every part of the civilized world more or less went mad, and humanity is now reaping its reward, not in the extirpation of smallpox, as promised by these fanatics, but in the increase of diseases more frightful in their character and in their general results more fatal. Having received money from the government, Jenner resorted to all kinds of schemes to hide the uselessness of his vaccination. According to Thomas Morgan in his Medical Delusions, pages 48 to 49, Jenner soon discovered that vaccination did not give immunity from smallpox, including some whom he had vaccinated by himself and had died from it. Not wishing to bring vaccination into disrepute, he endeavoured to suppress reports, and in writing to a friend said, "I wish my professional brethren to be slow to publish fatal results after vaccination." And in 1810 he wrote, "When I found Dr. Woodworth about to publish his pamphlet relative to the eruption, smallpox, cases at the smallpox hospital, I entreated him in the strongest terms, both by letter and conversation, not to do a thing that would so disturb the progress of vaccination." Smallpox vaccination was made compulsory for infants in England and Wales in 1853, and according to the actual government records of the time, the death rate increased. The report of Dr. William Farr, compiler of statistics of the Register General, London, states, "Smallpox attained its maximum mortality after vaccination was introduced. The mean annual smallpox mortality to 10,000 population from 1850 to 1869 was at the rate of only 2.04, whereas after compulsory vaccination in 1871 the death rate was 10.24, and in 1872 the death rate was 8.33, and this after the most laudable efforts to extend vaccination by legislative enactments. When Jenner was forced with the fact that the cow or human pus didn't prevent smallpox, he continued to experiment with other varieties. He noticed that in the running sores of the feet of a sick horse there was a putrid mass of pus. This disease was called horse grease by some people and was also known as horsepox. This he injected into a cow and then made a serum from the diseased horse and cow. When people learned what he had done, they protested so violently that Dr. Pearson wrote to Jenner immediately and said, "For God's sake, take the horse out, or you will damn the whole business." Following that incident, Jenner wrote to a friend and said, "I am on the lookout to be able to make a fortune and to appease the public." So Jenner decided to take the horse out. The only once vaccination creed to exterminate smallpox, when it was obvious it was failing, became revaccination will exterminate smallpox. The Chicago Health Department in 1902 stated, "True vaccination repeated until it no longer takes always prevents smallpox. Nothing else does." Jenner had named his product after the Latin name for cow, vacca, which is where we get the word vaccine from. But as we have seen, a large variety of animals were used. Even the human corpses of people who have died from smallpox was used to inoculate cows, then inoculate humans from the pus of the inoculated cow. And many other practices guaranteed to put you off your dinner were done. So does the practices of Edward Jenner, that the medical profession bows down to, sound like solid scientific grounding to you? Does it sound like something that really can prevent diseases? If so, there is nothing more to say. Thank you for watching.
There's been over a 20-to-1 return.
If you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
These vaccines are highly, highly effective.
Vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
They're really, really good against variants.
Everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
Get your first shot, and when you're due for your second, get your second shot.
A key goal is to stop the transmission, to get the immunity levels up so that you get almost no infection going on whatsoever.
When people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected.
If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. If you are fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask.
Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing.
But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission.
We didn't have vaccines that block transmission. We got vaccines that help you with your health, but they only slightly reduce the transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccine.
The level of virus in the nasopharynx of a person who's vaccinated and infected is the same level as the level of virus in the nasopharynx of an unvaccinated person.
Reports from our international colleagues, including Israel, suggest increased risk of severe disease amongst those vaccinated early.
And if you look at Israel, which has always been a month to a month and a half ahead of us, they are seeing a waning of immunity, not only against infection, but against hospitalizations and to some extent death. A booster might actually be an essential part of the primary regimen that people should have.
The plan is for every adult to get a booster shot.
Clearly one of the best investments I've ever been involved in.